this mic picking up sound it's not supposed to? First of all, what the fuck? Let's find out. I need to talk to you about the foods of Zen, which are soup for dinner and rice. Just rice all the time, regular rice, really plain. But you can season it with butter and salt. That's very delicious. Regular rice, really plain. Okay, I guess the mic isn't picking up sound. It's not supposed to be. What's this? Ken Bone. I just thought this was worth remembering from October 13th, 2016. Now I just have to play some Diablo 3 and WoW Classic today. That's it. Yesterday I did like 700 minutes of working on Minecraft highlights to save them into the feed out of their raw stream format, because when I stream those it's particularly done so that they can be made into highlight by trimming out certain parts of it and splitting them up into shorter segments that are like an hour to two. The act of splitting them into separate pieces is kind of more like a because I mean there's no fundamental reason not to leave them all chunked together as like 4-hour running or 3-hour things. I kind of prefer them all chunked together like that, but after I split them, they can still be placed together in the feeds in such a way so one comes after the other in the playlist. But what happens with that is if somebody starts with a different one, then goes back later and discovers the other one before it, there's a specific feeling about that. There's a specific sensation about that experience. World of Warcraft Welcome Back Weekend, return free through November 8th. Nope, too late for that. I already paid for 9 months. Because I bought a 90-day Blizzard balance amount to apply it to game time when I felt like. And then I went ahead and I had some extra leftover paycheck funds to go ahead and do the first time I've ever done a 6-month subscription purchase. I've never purchased any subscription other than the 1 month or 90-day game time ones that aren't auto billing subscriptions. But I did so since it included a wing item for your shoulders. I know for a fact I'm probably going to be pretty idle during the majority of that 6 months of subscription time, but I'll probably still log in a couple times a week. On most of the weeks, and only on some of them will I be logging in to play, 10 out of the 14 days. Because the way that I enjoy this game is intermittently, because it's quite aimless. I come in and do something aimless for a while, change my aim a few times, and but the way I'm enjoying it tends to grow the whole time as I go. That's consistent, but the fact is that it's intermittent. I play it, I have the enjoyment, and then I change my aim and I end up doing something different. I spend way more time on the other thing than I originally thought about or anticipated. My state of anticipation changes over and over whilst I'm experiencing the enjoyment of the gameplay. And it's quite similar to Diablo season kind of a flow of gameplay, except for the fact that there is no structured objective. So all the objectives are just kind of like symbolic gameplay kind of activities that I personally like, organized roughly by whether it's dungeoning or whether it's just kind of wandering to do quests, to do things in the non-dungeon gameplay, which are very, very meditative. They're extremely relaxing. It's taken me... I've had quite a lengthy interaction coming together, closer and closer together with myself in comprehending my use of video game sanctuary to grow my peace, to essentially engage well-being from a place of real mental, like in your mind, in your heart, sense of peace, of going to somewhere that is completely calm. It's completely refreshing. It's restful. I couldn't see, as a younger person, I didn't have comprehension of the way I was doing that. Despite the fact that I was doing it, I just lacked the active lucidity, the active involvement in that process. And actually, the first thing that I actively took an interest in, like doing correctly, doing in some way to make myself have more wholeness or more wellness, was breakfast, actually. I hit a point in basically the beginning of adulthood, which was my 20s. I wasn't really an adult yet, so I call it the beginning of adulthood. And the way I would eat food was extremely dysfunctional. I would, get up when I get up and go drag myself to the office for work. Possibly drink Mountain Dew Amp or Red Bull. Possibly. I might have done something like that. Or eaten, like, fruit snacks out of a vending machine some of the time. But not really, no regularity, just completely random as to if I would do that or not. But no breakfast is the point I'm trying to make here. Trying to function or doing something constituting not functioning, but still persevering along in the act of the daily grinding. Without putting fuel in the machine. So there was a realization point somehow, somewhere along that way, that I could access a state of mental clarity. I was just first grasping the beginning particle of like peaceful health kind of a feeling, like a sensation of my system or my mind, my senses working how they're supposed to work. And that began when I had to intentionally put a breakfast type of regimen, which was because of executive function being very poor. It was hit and miss. I couldn't really stabilize it or like systematize it that well. I didn't really have any concept of systematizing anything as of that point. If it wasn't my Warcraft spec and gearing kind of stuff, like things that I hadn't yet related in the koan sense to well-being. So there I am, completely disconnected from myself when you think about it, like not really in contact with myself, with the humanness, the actual person that is me. So experiencing a state of disconnection, the illness state. But breakfast was revolutionary in beginning the first grasp of sensation of goodness, of actual basic peace. So here I am sitting in my creativity space, experiencing the arrival point of that, of what began with the first granule of understanding breakfast. In the full actualized version of it, with breakfast, with all the meals and hydration and supplements and medicines I need, and all of the peace and rest, and intentionally structuring the meaningful activities for contemplation and for expression and for getting with myself, with the person that is me. For some reason I'm just buying helmets with these blood shards right now because I want the Leorix helmet. I want to continue playing this build without going to the full Savages build, but if I happen to get Savages helmets, then I can just do convert set items. I don't even have I just spent yesterday's Death's Breaths on helmets, which none of them were useful at all. So we could do so again. We could upgrade some helmets, but right now I don't have any Death's Breaths, so that's not happening. But once I wear that helmet, we're gonna cube these pants to get the maximum depth digger buff. I don't know what other pants there would be to wear in that situation. Let's take a look. Nemesis Bracer. We could put that in the cube. Oh, because I got Lut socks too, so I mean, we could equip that and use Leap instead of Furious Charge. What was I originally saying when I started talking about breakfast? I had lost the original thread that was for. I was talking about seasonal gameplay and the way I kind of fluctuate in and out of adventure phases. Oh, and I got the Bracer of Destruction, and I have the Seismic Slam hammer already. But that build just is not as sturdy. I'm enjoying playing this extremely high hit points. Depth diggers. Yeah, it's gonna go to 100% if we cube those. So I don't really want to go to a seismic slam rapid fire build because oh, it's ancient, so we would be equipping that one. I just don't want to go to a seismic slam build though because it's not as sturdy as this thing. It just isn't. Put these gems away. But the point was taking care of yourself, carving out the whatever it is that you need to have your peace and your functionality. And the core of my discontent on this topic is how that's so hard to do because we were kind of withheld from it. This is the one I spent a reroll on. Default social contract is just it deprives us, in my opinion, of the full thought or effort that we would need to take to experience the real well-being, the real productivity state that Zen looks at as just the simple I'm eating rice in the morning very slowly because there's no there's just no reason to rush. Just enjoying the rice is just really, for some reason the bone image turned back on. I know that we had turned that one off. I got enough pieces of the earth build to probably go 5 or 6 pieces, which would be a fun seismic slam. At the level where I'm standing right now, that would probably outperform the stream gem configuration. So the question is, which of these earth shoulders do we keep? And I'd be prone to keep the plus 15% life ones. And take both of these and do convert, because I already have 4 pieces of it right here. This build is going to be inferior to Savage's Frenzy, but it will outperform Frenzy with the Dream Gem as of right now. So we gotta go to convert set item. It costs 10. So if this spits something out I already have, it'll be really annoying. And it's a pair of pants. And a helmet. 2 things I already had. I'm usually swimming in those resources by this point. No vitality, 13% life. It's a toss-up because this one has vitality. This will be the one I convert. And I would reroll Vitality or another stat on this one and convert this one. Where did those lot stocks go? Because I'm going to group these items together so I can use them. We would wear those. We would be cubing the seismic hammer. We got the seismic bracers. We would be wearing those. Don't have the fjord cutter yet though. Fjord cutter, and then there's a hammer, echoing fury. We don't have neither one of those for seismic slam, rapid fire. And I don't even have a band of might yet. That's still a problem for me. During the whole beta. Never got into the beta, but I was subbed during it. Played retail a couple times, just setting up streaming, figuring out how that would look. I did it for the stress tests. I have that footage from my original WoW Classic streams, but the number of times I played or got a chance to sit down and play after that, I think I continued being subbed on through like February was maybe the last one. So I had the summer through September to Feb. I was subbed, maybe not quite the full 9 months, but somewhere around that out of the previous year. I'll probably get much more game time out of similar amount of sub time, given that I'm subbed up for the 9 months at this point. But primarily because I have carved out the time for my chillin', for my relaxation, to have sanity. That's the only way I can have sanity. So that was for my overall creative piece, what breakfast was for just the beginning granule of the sensation of health, of just basic functionality. Which is essentially, I define that as a minimal of stress overload. It's the ability to unload your cortisol buildup, as well as preventing like debt. Kind of like if you miss that, like if you miss rest, for example, you'll have a pile up. It piles on in a way that I think leads to escalating mood and fatigue, difficulty, which is, it can manifest as any number of things, but ultimately it just means you're not sitting there enjoying what it is you should be able to sit there and enjoy. You are having a type of struggle, and I think it manifests out as either depressive states or panic type of symptoms that are just disruptions of what you should be able to have well-being. This is just what I have observed through my life of getting one step at a time closer and closer and closer to comprehending my hermit creative nature. And I don't think it's all that different from the next person, any average person, other than my specific difference in executive function means that my challenge with mood, or with fatigue, or with having fulfillment, like having a structure to my activities, what I'm going to be doing that feels like that it's worth doing, that feels like it actualized something of value. I think you have equal parts self-defeat and super duper fulfillment. You have either defeat or like super fulfillment when you have the type of executive function brain that I have. So the way I experience joy now is by making lots of lists. I function through lists. And the zen of the list was kind of the very first insight that I pulled right before the whole insight with the Zen Paradox title, and the launching off point for my project was comprehension of my use of lists and writing everything, gathering all the detail into writing so I could look it over and collaborate with myself to just make the insight on what exactly is it that I'm trying to accomplish or say or experience or explore, and then getting that better, getting it more accurate, executively functioning, just simply by the nature of having put the information into the page. And so my friend gave me this actually came from an influence from him when we were categorizing my inventory, my equipment, like everything that I have. So what is it for? Like, what is its purpose, the reason you have it? And then is that purpose an everyday kind of like function? Like basically you group the functionality by its basic type of function, and then so is that the every single day? Like how often is that function relevant? What is the function, and then how often, or the group of how often the function is relevant is the second way of grouping the categories. And I actually transferred that whole mindset about inventory to every single element of list organization from my for crafting and for self-collaboration. And that's actually going to be a big part of what's conveyed in the metaphysics of the game I'm developing now, to have the experience of looking through that information, like seeing the information about objects that you have as to why you have them, and whether their function is an everyday, like regular, frequent thing, or whether it's a backup item in case of a scenario that may occur. So that's basically it, mainline items and backup items. But when it comes to information, list making and script making, these aren't 100% literally relevant in that way, but there are other types of categorizations that are similar that came forth. But ultimately, what the list does for me is it allows me to do the idea catching thing that David Lynch talks about, where you need to write down the insight like right away and then capture as much of whatever comes out in that time when it comes. And then you free your mind, you do the Zen actualization of the fact that you don't need memory. You only need to be fully immersed in the sensation of what you're doing, of what activity it is you're trying to do at any given moment. The list is your hard drive, so that you write it down and you no longer need to keep thinking about it or organizing it or using cognitive resources. So you keep a cleaner desktop basically by just capturing information into the list format. So I have lots of lists that I'll never need again or use again, and then I have lots and lots of lists that I'm using all the time to look over, to basically collaborate any given point in time of that me, essentially, because who you are now and who you were 5 minutes ago isn't the same. You are constantly variating and vibrating. You, like the spontaneous you. The only way to ascertain, like to see yourself as others see you, is to do this collaboration. So when you stream, you're doing another form of what the list does for you. You are allowing yourself in a given moment to spontaneously manifest, and you're creating a record of it. The record isn't all that important, except when you go to be your own audience. This is the kind of the first point when I set out to create narration, specifically in my art project here. It was last fall, about this same time, and I was recording my gameplay in my first Diablo 3 barbarian, who was like level 34 at the time, from playing through the game during its very first original release. I played that character through all the chapters, through the story, and then I also played through the Staff of Herding quest line to get into the original Whimsyshire at that time. And the only reason I remembered, I was talking about this on one of the relaxation streams, I remembered why I did that with my seasonal items, is because in the non-seasonal you're required to, you can't get into the adventure, the bounty, and the rifts. You can't get into this game mode from the season in the out of season time unless you have completed all 5 acts, and I only had completed 1 through 4. So I was specifically doing the gameplay of my Act 5, super overpowered gameplay with that character, by giving him crazy boosted items from my seasonal finds. And one of the items written in that original script draft, or like list of what the script was going to cover, was the self-collaboration thing I'm talking about right now. Which is already what list is. Like, that's already what it is, first of all. But self-collaboration comes down to actually acting as your audience, to view yourself, and moreover, to make your creative function, what you're doing with crafting, truly an act of bringing forth your joy. To see that what you are making, you are going to enjoy watching it later. Like, you are making it because you like it, because it's enjoyable. Like any given thing that I have in my archive, I enjoy sitting down and just having peace of letting what it is unfold, like just being the audience to what I made. So I enjoy tuning to my own stream, and when I first started crafting anything inside of the stream format, it was through this frame. I was creating Alan Watts compilations because I wanted to listen to those specific Alan Watts passages altogether. I think it was actually the repetition of Alan Watts listening, that brought me straight up to the self-collaboration insight, the whole knowledge about being your own audience, so you witness your spontaneous self in a way where you understand that there is no separate you ego. The you that is just this constantly flowing thing that you're only going to get sight of through your contact with others and through your behaviors to get with yourself, one of which is the self-collaboration mode, or I would say a flow is what it really is. At this point, I'm going on about a 42-day cycle, which allows me to create what I'm creating, enjoy the process of creating it as I'm going along, with as maximum immersion as I can have in the enjoyment of the activity itself in the first take, like in the path through creating it, in the moment, like the improv or off the cusp kind of a experience. And then time passes, I continue creating, I go on to make the next thing that is next to it, and so forth, and so on and so on, and I'm going on. Like in the Diablo season, I'm going forward with kind of an aimless goal, but it is an aim that is kind of shifting and updating itself as I go. Then, 20 to 30 days later, I'm going back, looking through and watching what it is that I have, what I've made, what I've written down, to plug in to get back with that experience, that particular particle of joy that I was in, try to reinterpret it, just in whatever reinterpretation arises in that moment is how I then make a change or make an edit or get an idea for the next thing, the way I need to modify it, the way I need to revise it. So I experienced that first just while iterating the Alan Watts compilation content. Pretty simple. It was pretty simple to start there and then gain all the insight on the way I am with content, with creativity, becoming closer and closer with myself. That earth set, what I actually don't have is the shoes and the chest piece. I have the gloves, helmet, pants, and shoulders. This is like totally aimless. I really need to spend this on rings and get the Band of Might. Got a lot of blood shards out of that run because we got like 2 blood shard goblins at that time. That's Widward. I like to give Widward to this guy with the upgrade his Creed's Flame to a Widward. I always give him a Thunder Fury, S of Johan. And the other one we don't have is the Oculus Ring to give us the little buff zone. Still need that one, so I'm going to be spending shards on rings. Just remembered. Forgot to check my sound. We're still sitting at master volume 50. Let's go back up to 70. So with my 42-day creativity cycle and self-collaboration cycle, that's what I'm doing. I create, I go along, I kind of have a list or a plan of what activity, what kind of aimless thing I'm involved in at any given point along the way, and then I go through everything that I made and streamed, and I, whatever idea came up in that, I kind of capture it and then expand it or highlight it, compile that together into whatever kind of an episode that it becomes. And as I'm doing that, the next thing I'm going to talk about or assemble or play or whatever is kind of rolls directly into my working right now mind, into the hands of that spontaneous self I am right now, to, in my next live, spontaneous session, I am progressing in that way. The self-collaboration is giving me enjoyment of what I've done, reminding me of what that was, so I didn't need to somehow keep a perfect memory of it. So creating it in stream is what kind of allowed me to harness that particular element of insight. By being an audience to my streaming creativity, I am kind of scaffolding up a path of the creative process, the radical creativity, I should say, where I'm iterating, well, what is this? What is my question? What is this thing that I'm pursuing that I enjoy, and exactly how am I getting to it? How am I doing it? Well, that's how. It's the scaffolding of enjoying what I make, enjoying the stream on its just basic value of what it is, just its original form exactly as it came out, and then getting the next idea from there and just scaffolding my way up. While also creating highlights, best of, clips, compilations, and the original idea is usually whatever it was that I set out to make, because sometimes I ended up with that and I have that kind of finished thing, like with the Flower and Journey gameplay box narration excerpts. Those were like beta versions of the Ultra Plateaus, basically. So those are still technically, they're in their finished form. I haven't finished transcribing the whole subtitles in that I was going to do, because that was kind of my next default thing, but the project launched off into a couple other directions all at once at that point, so I just put that on the shelf to do later, during a point that I'm like bored or whatever, that I can switch back to that activity to fill blank space when I want to. But I have so much other stuff I'm doing with the original concept that branched out from there that that's just not, it hasn't popped up as like, that's the thing I want to spend the time doing today, because I'm making content all the time now, and then looking through the content I made some amount of time prior, and so I have those two threads up in the air at the same time, the now thinking, and then what it was like 2, 3, 4 weeks ago on that 42-day cycle, finishing highlights into maybe their intended original finished highlight form, and then also coming up with new combinations and something, just whatever idea it is, to pair it up with something older, or create something to supplement it that I hadn't thought of at the time, to just finish whatever idea it was and bring it into a more completed, actualized form of bringing forth what's within, what it is that I contain that gives me the joy here. And the other really important point that was going along with that whole thread when I was playing through to gain access to the adventure mode for my non-seasonal, because my seasonal characters left the seasons, and then I couldn't do anything except to log them into the very beginning of the story game. Because I hadn't accessed or unlocked adventure mode, they couldn't go do bounty or rifts, which is what I kind of like doing with these characters once I play through them. So I booted up the old original Barbarian with like Gem of Ease stuff and like Super Thorns damage, so that we were just one-shotting everything, or like it would hit me and fall over and die. So it's amusing. I've got that footage, so I'm going to put some narration over, but I'm just putting it over just gameplay stream right now, just because I had a plan for that original narration. This is an example of what I'm talking about. When I made that gameplay, I didn't really put talking on it. I didn't have the mic on. I just did some music in the gameplay because my intent was to play it and do narration over it from my script or my notes. Over that gameplay session. So the corollary to the list thing and the self-collaboration is, in order to accurately do that, you also need blank space between. You need like a relaxed activity that is basically completely aimless, that engages your brain, or your creative mind, I should say, but at the level where it's entering what I would say familiarity motion. Like you're doing an activity, repetition that you're totally familiar with, that the repetition thing is a super duper important component that gets right into the heart of the function of boredom or the function of emptiness in creative flow, or in the accessing of your joy, in the literal scaffolding process within radical creativity, within the process that you would use to actualize whatever it is that you're ever going to be able to make or show or express. And when Watts is describing this, he's always talking about skillful action. He's basically talking about, using that will be a damage upgrade because it doubles my boost, my Dream Gem boost. We ended up with an Ancient Earth Pants, making both of these re-rollable. No Vitality, but we'll roll Vitality on it. Another standoff. I already have a couple of these, so I don't need to keep that one. Arcstone, don't feel any need to keep that. You have to have the boredom thing, which is a familiar motion. So I'm drafting a note right now that essentially is about the vibration steps in the flow between like 0, like the moment of awakening, and then gain familiarity, and then motion with familiarity, and then the full boredom, the coming to a stillness with familiarity. At that point, when you come into the full stillness, you can have the flip into an insight, an idea. You can catch the idea from that vantage point, basically. Which then goes into the burst of motion, unfamiliar in motion, and then you're gonna come to the unfamiliar stop point where you fall back into you need to rest. You're in information saturation at that point, so you come to the torpor state that Watts talks about, where you have to turn on forgettery, basically. You have to let out the buildup of information load, basically. It's the digestion, basically, when you get to that point. So I'm still working on that. I have the basic list. I failed to explain it very well since then. Still developing this one, but it goes with the whole creativity flow, where the boredom thing, the blank space where you stop doing any of those things in the flow, to let it all reset, to let your brain go back into the blank space where it can catch the next insight, or the comprehension of what it is. The full contemplation it necessarily involves and requires you to kind of clean out the buffer, the information buffer, before I got all the way into this insight, I was thinking about it in terms of like how the game does this like cleansing thing for your mind. This was really before I got into how Alan Watts explains meditation as essentially you go all the way into an activity. You're in it, having the full sensation of the positive, fun experience. The first time I got that from the Watts narration, it was the end of the session 2 on Do You Do It or Does It Do You? He's explaining the actual function of religion, or all religious exercise, is celebration. It is to give you a full exuberance, a complete celebration of now. And he talks about Allen Ginsberg doing sutra chanting, and it's more like a jam session. And so in that moment, he's literally describing what we're doing here in the video gameplay, to go through an activity that we're just completely just fully enjoying, and here completely voluntary, because this is what I want to be doing with my time, in order to enjoy the time, in order to apply that cleansing goodness of the fact that I'm choosing to do this. There's no required reason I have to do it, and I'm not getting something from this. No one's paying me a paycheck to do this, or etc. I am getting no necessary survival function. This is not like drinking a glass of water. It doesn't keep me from dehydrating and dying of thirst. It doesn't do that. This is a mentally and like spiritually, in the sense of the word that I can use, cleansing activity, because it's optional, because it's the mythos of play, of adventuring. So adventure mythos, the thing I'm trying to hold up and explore and create within, as the subject of my content, or of what my question is that play is like a soap. It's like a helpful was the best word I had for it when I was first thinking through this thread. But when Watts goes in and talks about meditation, he's saying if you're doing it to get a benefit, that means you're not meditating. If you're doing something that gives you some tangible benefit, there's a beneficial reason to do it because you think it's good for you. Like, that's not meditating in the way that meditating is really. So when I say what I'm getting from this is peace, and I understand the benefit of peace, or the fact that peace is my goal and any other goal is simply self-deconstruction, that's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about when I say, what is the purpose of my creativity? What is the purpose of the way I've done very, very intentional structure with my life to take this time to have to myself and do this creative experience? It is because I am voluntarily deciding to do this in a way that transcends what's required, what I have to do to live my life, entering the full realm of the creative actualization. And that action is what allows me to enter a form of peace that I can't access in any other way. It's not the resting state. I can't get it from interacting with people who rely on me or who are family or friends. You can have like friend contact interaction that is akin. It's the same kind of creative meditation piece, but it's different. The way I am with hermit nature, I can get that, but it's so hard. What I want is I want my friends to come here and share this creativity space, be part of what I'm doing to enter this piece, and I want to share this with them. That's the whole reason I started creating anything, is to figure out how to say my message. That's covered in the Mindcraft I did a couple weeks ago at this point. It was actually quite a while ago, over a month, that I recorded this voice note, but I had written the script for that one like pretty much as is, as messages to myself back in June or July. I ended up naming it I Placed a Call to Myself because I accidentally recorded it with my Bluetooth in the car, and it applied, for some reason that system like makes it sound like a phone call. It's really irritating. I was irritated that it did that because I felt like I said, from what was in the script and then the items that I did improvise in, I was really happy with it. It came out very, very well expressed combination of everything I had been thinking about it since the point of writing the messages. And I ended up keeping it. I tried recording a second take, but I wasn't happy with the second one. It just didn't contain the energy of how it was when the words first came out from that script that I had left sitting. So that was the value of leaving it sitting across all that time and picking it back up, doing one take, and how it came out in that take was excellent. It was the complete spontaneity of what I was trying to say originally when I wrote the scripting, and combined with the now aesthetics of my art in that moment, where the moment I had picked it back up to record the narration, it came out as the complete spontaneous actualization of what I was trying to say to my friends, to any of my loved ones, about how I had grown more hermited and harder to reach and more disconnected. Because I'm able to have a good time and go all the way into that human contact with them, but it's just so difficult to arrange that, to end up with a successful plan where you are able to hang out and have that experience and get the human contact. That's part of the reason I'm so upset, is that we are the complexity problem has ramped everything up to such a level that we are deprived from each other. We are, in the way that I was disconnected from myself back at the beginning when I had to, solve the breakfast problem. That's how I feel now in the way that I'm reaching toward my loved ones, and I want to contact and connect in such the way that I've carved this time out for me to have creatively, and I want them included, but it's like it's not possible to access it. Like, we're all under such complexity that I've got like an open invite for anybody to attend or to spend time on the phone, such as we can. In the whole state of quarantine, added an additional new complexity layer in this. And when I went down into that depression state that I'm talking about when I described the beginning of the Zen Paradox chapter, where I was at when I sat down and just chose to listen to the Watts talks only, and while doing this kind of an activity, a solitary, mentally cleansing, celebratory gameplay activity, I was pissed. I was super disillusioned. The depression is kind of the wrong word, because it was agitation and disgruntlement, and the bottom out of that chemistry where you are kind of depression state, but it is more of, for me, like a burnout point where and I was really ill. I got some kind of super flu. I still believe it may have been like the early corona beginning to proliferate before we really knew that's what was happening, because this was last fall, like in November. October is actually when this happened, but like I was sick already at that point, and I was fighting with my anxiety symptoms that ramp up when I'm sick. It's a crazy wheeze that just, for me, it was just escalating and escalating, and I actually, as a result of that experience, I learned how to reduce and solve the panic escalation as far as the symptom that is the wheeze that was giving me the worst trouble. I've basically dealt with it and fully tempered it at this point. But I was just ruminating in the brooding of being upset that we are being deprived from each other, and the complexity of this bad social contract. And I still feel that way strongly, and so I've taken steps to make creating and interacting with myself in this creative way possible and regular, and because I need it, or I'm going to lose my shit. I'm going to have no sanity whatsoever if I don't have this most days of the week for several hours, and on some of the days go longer and have like a double session. So there's a point where that's self-sustenant, where it's self-sustained, and where I get to that sanity point, but I also feel like the only thing I'm doing with it, with the whole idea of the Ghost Who Waits theme, the only thing it's doing is letting me make what it is that I can make, and then leave it behind for people to some point eventually get to, which is cool. Like, I enjoy the idea of spending lots of time to make something somebody else is eventually going to experience, and they're going to interact with this moment of me whenever this is that you are hearing this. If someone's ever hearing this, this is me from November 5th, 2020, speaking to you. And I'm time traveling to you. In this moment right now, I am transcending the time. I'm proving to you that it's always now, and I have transported you from where you are into this now of my creative piece. But I guess what I started out with to come to this creative piece was the desire to bring monk education into the world, to bring my vision of peace and of what should be fundamental contact with each other as a social organism, as a human organism group, to where you get to see you and I get to see you, we all get to confront the joy in our hearts and share it with each other, and we're not trapped under this complexity grinder, that we're going through a grind at all times, and just not being able to being in the disconnection. The disconnection is the illness, is basically my mantra here at the survival point. I'm not at peace with that. I am still troubled. Like the Zen student who's asking the teacher, and is troubled by their desire. I'm still troubled by the fact that I could do this, create what I create, and still feel completely disconnected from the people that I really care about reaching with this creativity, with the joy of what this is. And I know there's not going to be an answer or a solution. It's not solvable. It's a paradoxical vexation. I can't fix it because I am 900 miles from my friend who I want to share this with, and either of my friends who I can invite into this space. It's like the ability to do that exists. Like I can send the invitation and be like, hey, do you want to come be part of the conversation or the interaction that's happening when I come here to my creative piece to do what I do? It's just not happening. We just don't have the ability to align. So I can't like invite them harder. I can't. All I can do is keep sending the invitations and keep saying, yeah, this is what I'm doing. Like, look at this. This is the next thing I just made. Like every single time I make something, I broadcast that, you know, that there's a clip or there's like, I send 1 minute fragments of it some of the time. The connection is still being missed as of this point, and I want to somehow transcend that. I want what's being made to contain some kind of a connectivity and contact that goes somewhere a bit less time travel-y. It's still time travel-y. It's still me transporting you into this now, this version of my exact now, in a way that's interesting beyond just the essence of a video call or a Zoom call. It's interesting because I can then bring your voice into the interaction and the conversation that we're having, because I'm having this conversation between like the angles and the dimensions of my obtuse hexagonal self, but the dimensionality of what it could be with my hexagon and your shape, and the transaction of our creativity and peace from that aspect is really, that's the whole essence of the stream presence format, that we can share both sides of that interaction in kind of a real-time space where it's exponentially multiplying the creativity and the enjoyment, the joy element of it. Yeah, extra pair of Raycores. Don't need a Volcathos ring, that's one of the useless ones. I think I have one more Tix Brace already. We also have, oh, Focus is the one I already have, so yeah. Go ahead and get rid of that one. Okay, now it's time to switch over into greater rifting. This is kombucha. It's a mix of my precious pineapple peach. These are 40-ounce, bigger bottles than the little 16, 17-ounce ones. Quite delicious, mixed with session or pub beer cans. Vortex Brace, I believe we already have one. I think it's on the first page. Yes, we do already have one, so we can cue it. Just keep it right there for now. Okay, buy some rings. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good narration point to explain my creative thought right now. The greater project I'm doing right now is my essay narrations, but this moment here with the Warcraft relaxation and this hardcore gameplay is an intermediary between narrating those scripts into narration sessions, basically essays at this point, before I do that, I'm just continuing the development of all the concepts as they kind of become a more visible shape. How I do that is in this off the cusp narration, and I have a whole thread kind of noted or outlined, kind of pseudo scripted for more talk about the monastery. I was going to talk about that today, but I just launched off into a different direction. I'll probably start talking about that in a minute, but this first hour has been pretty good. I'm happy with all of that as it stands, and I'm going to, we'll start doing some greater rifts. How many rift keys? Okay, we gathered up 22. We're not gonna do level 45. We're gonna go down to number 8. We're doing 7 for Nephilims. We'll do 8 for Graders. We'll cheese it pretty easy. So we can level gems and hopefully just continue acquiring some of the loot that boosts me up in the enjoyment of the hardcore playstyle here. Yeah, we're cheesing it pretty thoroughly. I've just gained a lot more power since I was coming up against the Torment 10 trying to accomplish the conquest, not knowing if I was stepping into some pretty intense danger or not. Granted, my health did get chipped down a couple times, but I did not get cheat death triggered at any point when I was clearing it, either the first time to show that I could do it or the official time when I had all the set items unequipped so I could actually qualify for the conquest. I didn't realize you couldn't have a single set item equipped the first time. I thought it would work because I didn't have any set bonuses and I was just using the Dream Gem as intended with no set bonuses in action. But we're chewing it up even more severely because I have the Nemesis Bracer, allowing me to spawn extra boss for the orbs that bring you towards the Rift boss. It's a fun item to use in the Bracer slot if you're farming. Shield right now so I can stand in the death circles. It was very fast. I had 12 minutes and a half left. My little Urshi. Bring simplicity strength up to the healing tier. We will accomplish that on the very next run. After which we could level the Boon of the Hoarder and just also accomplish the gold streak and the cow level just for fun. Just another fun conquest to do. I don't remember what torment level I did that on, but I can review my stream to find that out. Yeah, 2 minutes 30. That was a very, very efficient map. We did it. We didn't actually do it on the first floor, but almost. Maybe we did. Maybe I'm remembering the other rift. Got another potion. Fear potion. That's pretty useless, but we'll bank it. Should reorganize this first page stuff since I have more pages unlocked now. potions. Gems. Oh, all the extra potions are already there. Okay. Now, extra gems we're not using for the current builds. These are the items I used to beat the conquest. Savage items, which we will use at some point when we complete the Savage sect. Okay, we will keep the extra usable bracers on this tab. Extra usable rings. Well, those should actually go on the first tab too. That's one of the things. Keep up front so I can find it when I want it. Sakara, that's the indestructible items one, which is pretty much a pointless item. One goes with, we're going to use it with that build. We actually have a strong arm and 2 Mortics. Messerschmitts. Those are just extra because we are... Oh no, wait, I was using one of those with the hammer build. Ah, I thought I had another extra potion. I indeed did. This is the miscellaneous extra shit tab. Stuff I might use or did use, but it's mostly just extra junk at this point. Keep the shield over here. Switching our usable belt. Wait. I have 2 of the fear potion. I just forgot that I already had one. Extra standoff. Okay. That was much better organized for now. Okay. Moving on. Let's continue doing exactly this farming. I guess we'll go up to number 9 since that was super duper cheesed. I took some damage right there. Spell damage, no doubt. Watch out for these death circles. One more. I feel like hardcore needs to have a mod though to alert you if you've managed to take a death hit and trigger your cheat death. There is a little icon that will appear here, but anytime I see an icon there, I have a little oh shit moment recognizing whether I actually got killed. Because that would just be more sensical if it popped up in the middle of your screen with a timer like those crowd control alerts that WoW has now. But the essence of playing this game mode is just like being aware of how badly am I getting hit, how frequently am I getting hit to that degree, and which level of running away do I need to be prepared to do at this particular moment. When you get into the point of the risk taking that it is to be on non-farming difficulties in your hardcore play. I've never once dumped a whole bunch of health and equipped the vitality gems as I did here. I've never had a health goal over 500-600k just from items having good amounts of vitality. But we have 1 million health on this build, and it just feels good to be built as a tank. A little bit less cheesed. Give myself health. Oh, also because I don't even have my healing bracer equipped, I'm still using the Nemesis. Alright, let's go ahead and level the Hoarder Gem. Fun, aimless, sided gold. Level that thing to 25 and we'll do the cow level. Try to get the 50 million gold streak. So another fun extra goal. Gold skin. Chance for enemies to drop gold. Huh? It's fun item to hold on to. And that is the Wastes glove for the whirlwind build. Drop it. Oh, I already had one, so it's a convert. maybe the knives one. Oh no, another quarter of the Sherma. Do not need that. That's the most disorganized tab. I don't feel like we need to put the healing bracer back on yet. If we're just gonna do 9s, we'll just stick to 9 for a minute. I'll probably just play hardcore immediately in the new season. I probably won't go play a regular season character at the beginning. I'll just do it hardcore straight out the gate. Because now that I've been here in the mode, I'm enjoying this gameplay with the focus on having the health pool and taking risks, but having the runaway plan in my pocket. It's just a little bit more interesting with all of the seasons I've done in the basic game mode already. Oh, I also had a narration planned for today that I wrote like yesterday that just kind of rephrased my point about the way we're creating work as a social organism, either through boss and authority top down or through the individual decision making that is actually left to individual will. Because there was a really, really excellent arrival point along that thread in the term abandoned money. Abandoned money is essentially what happens. You get a billionaire epidemic, basically, if you're creating that work from the top down instead of from individuals' desires. You get abandoned money of many forms, one of which is the fact that Jeff Bezos is making $225,000 in 60 seconds. Like that's abandoned money. So is the $70 million that were spent on the campaigns of the opponents that lost to Mitch McConnell and that other lady people were trying to vote out. Like, the whole point was representative government and top-down employer wage, like money, are both the same failed mechanism. They're both the same failed top-down decision making from subset, like individuals or individual pieces of a social organism, which fails. It doesn't get the truth. It doesn't get to the emergent wealth and emergent intelligence of the social organism. It fails it in such a way that all it does is elaborate deconstruction. So the term abandoned money, when I was first drafting about this, I was using some of the Watts influence and how he was talking about the fact that wealth is real consumable items which constitute something desirable or valuable. Like the sensation of it, the fact that it's really an experience, whereas money is just a number. I was using that to talk about how I was basically using the abandoned money math without having the term to say that so easily yet. And this is in the scripts for the essay narration. And I'll come up with some of the ways I described it originally in that particular piece. That piece is really cool on its own. I'm going to narrate it as is, just for get the full effect of the way I talk about it now. I'm just going to pull it up so I can just read this excerpt. Let me remember when I wrote this. Had to be a little bit before the quarantine. Poverty gain. Yep, here it is. I recently realized that there is, in fact, some more things to be said in the stead of Alan Watts, because he was wrong about something. If you listen to the end of Web of Life, I added this segment to the sum up in the second Zen Show volume. He's talking about what's left to do after we feed everyone and eliminate poverty completely with the automation machinery. What he's talking about is living for celebration, for joy, for meditation within all actions that aren't done in order to get something. So he was wrong. He spoke of the Great Depression and made an assumption that the path ahead was a sure progression to a social organism that only might fall because of basically nuclear suicide. He was wrong. That is not where we are. So that was the point of this piece. Edit note here. I'm interjecting this. He's wrong. That's not where we are. Resuming. He didn't see that cancer, bad rapidity, a wealth tumor paradigm would be the mortality threat impending. Title bullet. What happened to modern society because the great miracle of modern science turned cancerous? Question prompt. This is the prob right now. Humans need money. We have what can be thought of as the inverse of a moneyless society. It absolutely requires of us monetary input. It does not permit the existence of the outsiders to this. If there is a single way of defining the outsider it does not permit, it is the money transact. Bullet point or question prompt. You must play, or you must pay. The best way to upset the officials around here is to go along about your business rent-free, tax-free, and income-free. As an independent contractor, my finances are written to reflect that I operate at a loss. The revenue does not exceed the cost to operate. As an educator, you can see that my expense plus actions generate gains which are non-monetary. I convert the money into real wealth. In the act of teaching sovereignty in third place, with the core value being we, school, government, church, or anyone else, do not tell you who you are. You tell us that. I went into this much more in the call I placed to myself, actually. It was in that one that I expanded on that quite a bit. Resuming. Oddly, there's a whole array of partial systems if you float in that space of almost no income, the best of which is funding that you can only spend on feeding you/family dependents. SNAP, food stamps. It's a weird tool because almost the only way to benefit from it is to rig your finance numbers so they'll give it to you. The actual math situation is so far from what the system is asking for input, it's sort of funny to me. This system actually makes a recognition of the necessity to put funds into human wellness as a decentralized minimum transaction, such as the public school concept absolutely does not. Bullet point question prompt. No shirt, no shoes, no sovereignty. So let's study the big math about this. Alan Watts said the inner meaning of tech was to give your workers less work to do and let you go gaze at the moon and make love instead of wasting away in the office. Let me paint the predicament that goes on around here, because that meaning was placed in a box labeled, that meaning of tech was placed in a box labeled socialism, do not use. There is an insane level of debt, theoretical funds, which will never ever be payable or become funded. Those holding the debts will never collect, never convert to real wealths. Suspended thefts. At the same time, there is production which can never be purchased. Real goods which have only theoretical value, whilst outside the circulation of purchase. Unrented office, vehicle, home, unsold tradable commodities. This was where my original dismay came in. I saw just emptiness all around me. Just lots, full. Parking lots full of RVs, vehicles they could never ever sell or rent. Endless amounts of housing and space. And this is still what I see all around me. I took a picture of a sign across from the store where I like to buy this kombucha that says, put your business here. And like I'm always saying to that sign, my business is people's well-being. So that's the tangent. Let's go back into the narration. Expired food they can't sell because they made too much and didn't create monies to come back to themselves in exchange for the nutrition. An arcade you can't get tokens to play in. The profit accumulated by our so-called innovators are almost totally false gains when there's so much idle production. This is suspended wealth. This is a mathematical double bind in the heart attack of ultra-classism. Pretend funds which will never actualize. Idle wealth which will never convert back to the fund's value for any participants thereof. Effectively disconnecting the final value of the sum of owners/craft inventors and workers' effort into design and production. Suspend it within the theoretical and inverse to the non-actualized funds owed of debts, unpurchasable goods. Now it starts to become more clear that what's going on is ecological malfunction. Division by zero. Bullet point, question prompt. I don't work for free. Yes, you do. Everyone does. Why? Because the agreed upon value of every given thing has been suspended within the theoretical realm and held up as net worth, as debt, and so forth. The GDP of the economy no longer has a meaning. It's an artificial, counterfeit floor model, with the real wealth being kept on an island like the gold originally was before being lost in the seismic event. That's from the Watts Cosmic Networks excerpt on the failure of the money technology specifically. Suspended in false gains and unpurchasable overstock, these are the tumors which have grown, an ever-increasing rot, where it should be the basic flow of what the cells and organs of the organism lives off of. What we need is juice, question bullet point. Therefore, what are we working for anymore? All activities have been value juiced. There's no fucking juice left. The only juice there is actually something else. It's what's missing from all this. What defines the does not have in false gains and the horrible plastic substitute for a wage, where the only thing missing is the made in China inscription, which is sharing. Sharing is the only juice left. The transaction of pure value transfer. It occurred to me that the solution Alan Watts cites from the likes of Theobald and Buckminster Fuller can be stated in a clear and profound sentence. We must stop funding work only from the labor production edge and instead fund it at the bottom where the purchase takes place, resulting in synergy, emergence, economics which are in fact democratic because no one is being coerced. So that's where that narration and final note ends. And where abandoned money comes in to pick this up and finish the thought is what I've been thinking about lately in the present moment. Abandoned money is that suspended thefts and suspended debts. And the whole idea here is that that's the inevitable end point of a system which has the decision making, the flow, happening through representative government and through employer wage, where the spending decisions are being made by someone other than the individual. It's failing. It doesn't work. It just causes the pileup, the cancer, the abandoned money. The only alternative to that is what I was talking about when I was doing the Diablo and WoW stream the other day, and the question of what are the wages of peace and what work are we creating. The only possible alternative is when you let individuals make their own decisions. You let the social organism run from an income floor, basically tokens for the arcade, which represent the real wealth, the real work that's going to happen when I go take those funds and I make the purchase, when I create the work. using the funds to say, this is what I value, this is what I need to happen, so let's make the purchase and make it happen. Exactly how all the decentralized or disruption industry gig platforms have done. The next step here, the only possible step, which constitutes innovation and progress and undoing of the cancer and the collapse, is this. So there's an interesting Reddit thread called anti-work, and I only say it's interesting because this is what the anti-work group is trying to say, that we have to. The other narration I referenced when I went off into this thread is a post I wrote on my project table of contents Reddit. It just goes under the same title as my other social media pages, as this channel. And I'm going to read that one to finish up this segment. I'm just going to paraphrase it right now while I'm playing. It spells out the fact that representative governing has completely failed, and there's a reason it's failed, and that simple reason is that emergence, the emergent intelligence of the social organism, happens when everybody within it does what they're wanting to do, what it is that they're trying to do in order to actualize what they value. That's the social order is a circle basic premise, that what we value is what flows into ourselves, what is generating well-being and goodness in a way that flows in. What flows out is our waste. It's a very, very simple premise. So with individuals making the decision to actualize, to get the work done, to get the work going that brings them value, you necessitate basically the actualization of that value. You can never ever force that to happen or replicate it or imitate it through a boss authority, a king bully saying, this is what we need to have happen, this is the way we're going to succeed. My priority is what all of your priority is. By forcing people to do what they actually don't want to do and go towards some goal within which the stakeholder themselves is disregarded. So that boss is not the stakeholder in the emergent well-being of any individual in the social organism. The organism's well-being is shared. We're all stakeholders in it in an absolutely equal way. In the way where they said all men are created equal, that's the way in which we are all shared stakeholders in the total emergent well-being. And in order to solve for this, in order to actually do a viable tech solution for this, the bosses who are obsessed with bossing people around, imposing their will on life, which is just a bunch of junk, they have to give up on that. They have to understand that it's futile to want to be a boss, to waste all your energy watching over everybody and policing them, basically, and trying to force them to do things a certain way and not allowing them to grow up and make their own decisions for themselves, for what they are going to find beneficial. These two things, the goal of the social organism, well-being and emergence, for intelligence, for wealth, for productivity that actually works and doesn't pile up in these abandoned money and cancer paradigms, mutually arises with the abandonment of bossing, of the use of force. So that means that the final arrival point, the conclusion point in that, understanding that that has to be abandoned, is the same thing as saying, if we want to have an economy that just kills itself, that just strangles itself, well then go on having governing and representative employer-based money flow, where the only money motion that ever happens is done by large wealth holders who are just holding a huge amount of abandoned money that doesn't even mean anything at all. The concentration of power in small hands is the definition of not having liberty. It's the most dangerous thing, whether it's governments or other entities. I can't remember exactly where that quote's being pulled from, but it recently appeared in, I think actually in the end of the Milton Friedman video I have in my final page Minecraft compilation. I just finished highlighting it yesterday. That must be why it's fresh in my mind. But the mutual arising of a social organism where we have actually finally allowed people to grow up and make their own decision. The group of us making our own decisions, being paid to make the decision that we find to be valuable. The meaning of being paid to do that, to have that work created, is the abandonment of bossing, of wage constricted money technology. It's the adoption of money as a technology for common sense, for the meaning of there's no bossing, you can't do bossing. To think you're doing bossing and actually accomplishing something is to just engage in the fool's task. That you're actually failing, you're actually not accomplishing anything if that's what you think. The arrival point there is to be a social organism that says to everyone, go do what it is you want to do. We want to pay you to do the thing that you think is valuable, because any other use of our resources is just shooting ourselves in the foot. It's just elaborate self-deconstruction. It's just a waste of my own time to try and police you or try and presume to tell you that I'm going to know how you are going to find benefit or peace or health at all. I'm not going to find that, ever, no matter what I do. Only you are going to find that, and you're going to have to tell me. And the way that you tell me is with your purchase behavior, and with the total emergent behavior of everybody in the organism. That is how the intelligence, the emergent wealth of the social organism comes forth and begins to circulate. By everybody pursuing their own decisions for what it is that they find valuable, with no boss interfering, without any infringement. The meaning of Wu Wei, letting everything come forth as it happens of itself. It mutually arises in the meaning of the governance of society actually getting over the hang-up and understanding that they can't keep acting like it's possible to govern by ruling. It's not. It's impossible. You can't do it. It will never work. The solution is so incredibly simple. Yeah, I've only got a corrupted Ashbringer. That's a good item to have just for funds. I'll probably use that and cube the seismic slam hammer in a minute. Stone gauntlets are pretty useless, but I will keep the non-ancient pair that I have and this ancient one anyway. And an extra OZR. Drop that in our extra stuff tab. Over here. So those are our options. You have the option of a boss, top-down, representative governing, employee and wage system, where we will never, ever, ever get to something that's not just cancer, rotting of abandoned money, taking away everybody's sovereignty. Worse and worse and worse. Or you can have the society which has taken money and implemented it as a system by which everyone goes and actualizes their own decision without infringement, under the meaning of Wu Wei, to create the total emergence of a society, creating work that it finds valuable together, to show our what we value to each other and bring forth what we can make to each other in the transaction of commerce. Merciful exchange. It's supposed to be merciful. The only way to do that at this point is to stop having bossing, stop having the top-down representative government, employer and wage system. It's been proven over and over and over that we can't do that, and that the intelligence of decentralization, disruption, gig, it just has to be applied now to the basic citizen in the form of money. They've been talking about this since the 60s, and it's so far overdue now. It is now. The time that it's absolutely necessary is now at this point. That's what Andrew Yang is talking about. That's why my channel is political, because I am so exhausted by being under the pressure of bossing from so many different angles and institutions that all failed me. And under my harm reduction platform, we are all owed payment for the funds that the failed representative government ran off with and wasted for my education and now for my children's. We are all owed those funds to now go forth and actualize with our own decisions what we need to have happen in order to create the social organism that is true to our inmost heart and our inmost joy. And that's the only redemption path possible at this point, is to get rid of the bossing and the garbage nonsense hang up on bossing people around and putting them in jails and containers, and just let people grow up. And the way we do that now is to understand what the problem was, admit that the problem exists, and address it. Reconcile the wasted funds, the fact that I managed to acquire health and well-being, and the path to finding out what education is for myself, despite all the systems contradicting and trying to force me down these useless paths and these cancer paths, basically. Despite that, I still walked a path to find all of this for myself because I was resistant. I was stubborn. I did it anyway. I did it my way, even though the system was saying don't do that. I said fuck you to that system, and I did it my way anyway, and this is where I'm at now. And I'm just trying to bring this knowledge into the social organism so that we can solve the disconnection illness that we're stuck in, the complexity problem element of the disconnection illness, so that we can actually start having commerce, merciful exchange, whereby our actions are a series of decisions of what we find to be best. To actually share that with each other. Not to do so is to continue walking in complete darkness, complete joylessness, and complexity to the point of a continuing escalating violence and division situation that is just, frankly, it's going to get more and more violent and more crazy. We're already on the brink of a civil war here in my culture. We are literally on the precipice at this second of a full-out violent civil war. And it's because we have been pushed to the absolute maximum limit by lying thieves who are horrible bosses, bad managers, who are doing the absolute opposite of what good managers do, which is to pay their people and hands off, leave their good people to do what they do the way they do it, and not try to presume that they, as the boss, is the person who has the knowledge or the skill or the know-how of how to accomplish the thing that the person with the talent is supposedly being hired to do. Like, they've got the whole fucking paradigm upside down in that. And we're so upside down in this that we're in such an illusory division that it's both amusing and incredibly terrifying all at the same time. We've got the top bad boss, I call him the king bully, literally saying that the process of democracy is trying to be stolen by his opposition, when in reality the only thing that's happening is we're trying to fire him as the shittiest manager we've ever seen in all time. More people in this crazy pandemic quarantine situation have risen up to place their voice, to basically load some ammunition, symbolic ammunition, into our truth cannon to try and fucking knock down the 4 years overgrown wall of thieving lying that has been carried on by this horrible manager. And if we can accomplish that, it doesn't really mean anything other than us getting the satisfaction of giving this guy the middle finger and firing him, like the equivalent of quitting out of the bad manager, except done on a collective basis where all of us are successfully pulling that off against him. But it doesn't mean anything until we can walk forward and continue the humanity forward goal of actually getting rid of bossing and failed representative governing at the top level, and give ourselves a bottom floor level income system, which is a sensible, thoughtful, sane use of the money technology to literally create the economy that is resilient, that recovers from this situation, and that heals us from this intense and super duper cancerous disconnection division state that we're in. This is the only way it's going to happen. So that was the whole point of the Yang campaign, was to bring that message to the top. And I've gained a huge amount of connections with people who are trying to do exactly the same thing I'm trying to do, just bring the harm reduction message to reduce the harm of coercion and bossing, to install a basic economic mechanism that we have the ability to do now because of electronic communication and Cash App, and the ability to basically transact without any physical token. That's as close to the moneyless society as you can get, is a tokenless society where we can electronically send every person $1,200 to $2,000 a month baseline and give them a little boost if there's children in the household that they're also educating in this. And then all we got to do from there is get rid of the oppressive authoritarian school situations and have spaces that are not for sale, that are for peace, for housing and for schools and workspaces, so that people can have the room, the real estate, so to speak, to practice their peace and to practice their craft, so we can have some commerce going on without all this rigging being done by landlords and the horrible managers of this world. Very, very simple. The answer is not difficult. Only difficult thing is how many horrible bosses there are just strangling the social organism and abandoning all the money, all the gains of our emergent productivity. It's just, that's the end of the punchline. That's all there is. That's the mic drop moment. That's another Raycor's gloves, which we have on at the moment. That's actually the 6-piece Raycor, the only set I don't really want. Well, I mean, I don't really want IK, but I have 5 pieces of it right there. I used to have one of them equipped with boots. I've never once used a Furious Charge build. I think I did try it once during the first season or something, or maybe right after the season ended. I just tried it. I have done the Wastes one. That would be probably the other one I would do just for farming. Okay, all this stuff is basically useless. We are not getting Death's Breaths from graders, but we are upgrading the gem, which is fun. I have to take a stretch and restroom break though. Was planning to play some WoW Classic, but well, I'm just gonna put that off for a second. I might do some tonight. I might restream a little bit later tonight. Still haven't seen a single band of mine. Maybe we should upgrade some rings. Yeah, of course it's just gonna give me useless set rings. Of course it is. The Wheeling Host is super duper useless now. Because the Dream Gem does what it did. I kinda wish they would make the option to cube a set into a gem, like add a gem thing in the cube, which would let you collect all the pieces of the set and then channel them into your cube gem, like a square cube gem that would go in a gem slot. But what would be really cool is if it was a gem slot in the cube. So we come over here, we go down here to the gem, like a gem socket for it in here, and you'd have to craft the gem through the gem guy. But you would do it by putting all the set pieces in here, and there's obviously enough room for all the set pieces in it, so they'd have to be a different frame. Like, yeah, there'd have to be a gem guy cube crafting tab over here. Like, just pretend there's another tab here to forge, and then you could put your set in there and create its effect, because they made this dream gem for us. But like, what I would do is I would want the gem to give me like an ability boost. Like, I boost Seismic Slam and Earthquake with the Earth set. It allows my leaps to create Earthquake, so like those three effects plus a damage boost are what you might have by equipping a set gem into your cube using the gem guy, like collecting the set and then putting in the cube. So all that really allows you to do is employ the function of the set, similar to how the Ring of Royal Grandeur would make you only have to equip 5 pieces, but in this case we wouldn't be needing to equip the set in order to get its advantage. Now, you may say that sounds pretty overpowered, but all I'm doing here is spitballing or brainstorming like the way this system already works, and the way equipping different legendaries with a cool effect already works to let you kind of craft your playstyle for what you're trying to do. So I've been able to put together some pretty cool defensive and safety abilities here, along with abilities that make this frenzy build pretty much function pretty good, even though I'm not wearing the Savages set at the moment. But once we put the Savages set on, we'll be able to go all the way up to Rift 90 probably without ever even fearing death. Because it's so damn powerful, the set they put in the game for the frenzy build. Because before you couldn't even really do a frenzy build, and then they put the Bastion's Revered buff in there. I'm pretty sure that's the one they buffed. It did do something for frenzy before, but it wasn't the 10 stacking thing. It was something else. I can't remember what. I just think it would be more interesting to create those benefits that are in the set and maybe like mix and match them differently, because I really like the Seismic Slam rapid fire play style, but I kind of like to mix it with the Earthquake Lutzocks Seismic. So that's my marsupial. My basic marsupial style is to have the Lutzocks and be dropping Earthquakes, but I actually had the most fun with that build when I fully built it with the Blade of the Tribes and the other items, the Focus and Restraint, that actually made that build function like super fun. It made it run at its full potential. So I just have that idea in my head, like, well, we could pretty much get any build or combo of abilities more to like a full potential kind of a state if we could do something with a gem thing for the cube that would let you pick the ability, like the trait that it is that you need off the set for the ability, and then extract it, like apply it to the gem, and then let's say maybe there's 3 gem slots that lets you do that. So essentially it's doing something kind of like the gems that you would level up like gems do to make the boost more and more powerful, to augment what it is you're doing, but essentially to give you the more customizable tool set you need to just pull the powers that are going to augment everything that you like doing. Basically something I've been trying to give feedback to WoW development, to get to the point that they could let you choose which abilities that you like, basically how Diablo is, but then to pick your spec and your points, your talent points for the abilities that you liked, to use them the way you want to use them, to make both the aesthetic and like class fantasy kind of choices. So that is the meaning of adventure role playing, to the extent that you're creating a character, you're crafting that character's role, by choosing which abilities that they're going to use and prefer, and like just which way you enjoy playing. Do you like running through the air and flying higher? Do you like walking slowly and staying at a range? Like, which thing do you like doing? It's all about the adventure meditation thing that I covered in the the first Minecraft Death Knell episode. It's that. I've always had these kind of ideas in game making and like gameplay customization or modding ever since I was crafting mutators for Unreal Tournament. Before we had WoW, like before we even really had Diablo 2. It's just kind of a thread I've been on for a while. With stuff like that, plus like an ability to create custom riffs or like modded like levels or stages or scenarios. They have that in the City of Heroes game, and they had a lot of user-made content availability in the original Star Wars. I'm trying to remember what it's called. It has a specific name. It was the first Star Wars MMO. Can't think of what it's called for some reason, but it's a classic MMO basically that kind of goes in the EverQuest era, timing-wise. Okay, we have the Savage's shoes, and it's ancient, extra bonus. Apple of Twilight is a useless item. Gift of Silaria, no special benefit. Slanderer, that's a potentially useful item. We'll make it for later. IK pants, I think I already have that. Oh nope, that was the one IK piece I don't have. I think I might have gotten it and just trashed it. I feel like I've definitely gotten the IK pants before and just accidentally deleted them or something. No, that's not where it goes. What the fuck? Stone of Jordan. Decent ring. Because they buffed it, it wasn't good before. Just in case we won't drop it in the cube, we will go ahead and keep that Stone of Jordan over here in my extra boons tab. Technically, we'd be buffing my damage up quite a bit to equip this ancient bracer that I have. Which reminds me, the Ancient Heel of Savages would be a better piece to equip than the non-ancient Savage's helmet. So at this point, it will benefit me to just put on the this dumbass level 9 Leoric's crown. Where's my other Leoric's crowns at? I'm kind of surprised I haven't gotten a better one yet throughout all this. So that's going to be a slight life sacrifice because we're going to be going down to 85% to... But I will gain the cube slot. Remember, I will gain the cube slot. If we go ahead and put on those Savage's shoes. So we will drop my illusory boots back in this tab here. We will put on the ancient Savage shoes, take off the helmet, and we are going to wear this Leoric's crown. Okay, we need Gem Man to get my good Vitality gem out. This kind of stuff was like the original let my mind chew on information. Like before I was doing it for creativity and like metaphysics, I was doing it in things like this, theory crafting and just playing games in the strategy aspect of the mechanics, the math of the gameplay. That's like koan. It's literally a koan situation. Alright. So we're back up to 1 million. I think that's good enough. 100,000 difference. And we have this one. We gained a damage buff because we have that ancient equipped now. Okay. Let's do that for a minute. is kind of nonsensical to wear this item, but I don't feel like it's that much of a sacrifice, and we're giving up a couple hundred strength. But that's it. But we gained extra 100% damage. I feel like the damage is going to be more. I could be wrong, but we'll just try it. We'll just have some fun with that. See what happens. Yeah, because I have the ancient raid cores on because the fact that it's ancient is giving me a big damage boost. If any other possible applicable ancients I might use, I don't think so. Stone gauntlets are very hard to use because you need to have a class ability that makes you immune to the slowdown. It's used in the Demon Hunter build I was playing. Alright, let's give this a shot. I mean, if it's a lot worse, I'll immediately know, so we're benchmarking it right now. It should be much better considering how much that damage boost happens with an ancient item and a dream gem. Benchmarking is important because you need really fast damage to minimize the risk when you are taking some light to moderate amounts of damage in any given situation. Theory crafting and strategizing how your build of your character or play style is kind of the core central piece of any kind of role-playing style adventure enjoyment. Yeah, it's benchmarking pretty well, it seems. Oh, almost got hit by that death circle. Took a little bit of damage. With 100,000 less HP because of the fact that we gave vitality up to make that swap. Oh, I forgot to change the cube too. I'm now double equipping the Leorix on my head and in the cube because I forgot to change it. We'll change it after this run and continue enjoying this battle meditation. Shieldy shield, you can't hurt me, because I am shielded. How does demons have a mother to crawl back to? I don't understand that. I don't think it's very feasible. Demons could theoretically have a mother, but it's my understanding that demons one day popped into existence. I was once reading in the Warlock mythos in WoW. I'll come up with the exact line. It was like a couple lines from Warlock lore. I'm sure it's pulled somewhere from the actual game, somewhere in WoW. But it basically said, one day demons suddenly popped into existence without any explanation. The next line was something about their dismay, their dissatisfaction with the state of existing for no apparent reason. And the punchline on it was, I don't call that evil. It was a justification for demons' bad behavior because they popped into existence somehow without wanting to, and acting out their frustration or something. I don't know. It was some convoluted, hilarious mythology. It's pretty fun to level up that Hoarder gem. It's dumb that I leveled it halfway up and then tried to beat the cow level challenge and like barely missed it. I was at like 48 million at one point when it dropped the first time. Like I would have gotten it if I just hadn't if it hadn't dropped that time. But then it was like cheesed after the gem was leveled all the way up to 25. So it was like, well, we almost got it that one time, but then we cheesed it by leveling the gem all the way up as people suggested we should do. That particular accomplishment will have a bit more of a feeling of accomplishment when we do it under the hardcore rule set. Okay, that's a usable bracer for later. This guy always gets stuck in the pathing when I go to the stash. It's hilarious. Also, he sometimes does it when we're clicking on the obelisk. Okay, I fixed the cube. Let's fix the cube. Which cube power can we use? Which cube power shall we use? We could use a different belt, but all the other cube powers are duplicated. Let's go to this belt and let's put on one of these other belts that I have. Like the witching hour. I like the witching hour. Do I even have any other viable belts at the moment? I actually don't think I do. The witching hour is the only other one I even have. This is just silly. I don't have a better the York's crown. I guess we could cube Mortix would be another one, but I'm barely even touching Wrath of the Berserker with this build. Speedy pylon. Short floor. Another short floor. Prepare for the die. Okay, Boon of the Hoarder is up. We can try the cow level and see if we get the frickin' conquest or if we get killed by accident. That would be fun to die in the cow level. 2 useless helms I've gotten multiple times before, of course. Once again. Alright, at this point I'm just going to dump the remaining levels into Dream Gem upgrades. Useless helmets, useless helmets. So which gem we would use? We would definitely swap this one for Boon. Actually, this is probably the one to swap out for safety's sake. And we would not be using the Nemesis Bracer for this particular run. Instead, we are going to equip the ancient one that I have. Where the fuck did it go? Oh, no, that one. Yes. Promise of Glory. That's the wrong tab for this. Right here is where my swappable stuff goes. That's some extra miscellaneous crap. Okay, bring this. Alright, fix the gem. We're just gonna go for it. The Hoarder goes in. Okay. Now we cube the bovine bardiche. This is excellent content. We should probably leave game and increase difficulty first. We're doing number 9, Pretty Cheese, so let's put it on number 9 and just try our luck. Okay, let's try let's try this shit. Make sure everything is set up correctly. Yeah, I think this is 100% how we should be set up to do this. No! Oh my god, dude. We might just get killed here. I'm actually waiting out my, fucking nerves, steely nerves, to continue the kill streak and gold streak here. We're at 4 million so far. It's not going horrible, but we need to make sure to continue the path of destruction here. And we actually experience the death at the beginning. And the streak's gonna drop right here because I just ran out of a dead end. That doesn't bode well. The Cow King ambushed me. I didn't have my shit up yet. He fucking ambushed me. That was ridiculous. You have to open the containers to get all the gold in here too. You have to destroy the barrels. Open the containers. We like spawned on top of the Cow King part. That was ridiculous. Yeah, that streak's dropping too. This is a horrible Cow King run. Trying to comb through it. This seems like an irresponsible idea to pop the quest. I haven't even been able to get the streak up to 10 million. This is like a cursed chest event with the cows. The most savage thing was that fucking Cow King ambush. It was super duper savage. It's like the worst cow level run I've ever had. Literally so bad. The streak didn't drop this time, it stayed. But it's gonna drop as soon as this event is done because I don't have anything else to kill. I got these chests. Maybe this difficulty just isn't high enough because these gold streaks are very low. The streak's still going. I'm at 6 million right now. But chest up there. Let's go up there and get it. lost it at 7 million. So moral of this story is that the difficulty is likely too low. We had several 7 to 9 streaks. It's possible that we might have been able to do a 50 million in here, but I don't believe so. I strongly disbelieve. Based on everything that just happened. So let's just comb it for loot and be happy with the survival situation. Given the risk taken, the fact that I stayed in and did not run away while my cheat death was cooling down. It's pretty fucking nuts. You have to collect the corpses too to get the gold streaks in here. Oh, the gem is definitely in there. I'm like, did I forget to drop the gem in? The streak seems really low. Maybe they nerfed that. Maybe it does just normally take you a couple tries to spawn one that gives you the streak appropriately. You gotta click the dead villagers because they usually spawn a lot of gold. See, that guy didn't spawn any, so. Left a bunch of loot though because I was just panicking. Let's go find the loot. Of this material loot. I only care about the resources. A slain farmer. Each corpse is worth like 200k. Oh, maybe it was level 50 it needs to actually be leveled up to. You don't just need the 25 bonus. That's what's happening. I just did the same thing again. I leveled it up halfway. We actually need to keep leveling it. I made the same exact mistake. Okay, let's get the other 25 ranks on it, and we'll do it again with my other Bardish. Bovine Bardish. It would have been more responsible to bail out right after that Cow King ambush. Useless. Well, thorns equal to vitality. I might want that later. Never know what I might want for a hardcore build. Alright, yeah, fix the gem now. Gem man, take this gem back. It's not ready. It's not ready yet. that's it. I'm gonna do some WoW Classic later tonight if I got insomnia again, but I feel like I might go for a super long deep sleep because I barely slept last night. It was not a good night.